Since I dropped my video on the Saiyans versus Viltrumites, there's been massive discussion around the topic of Dragon Ball versus Invincible as a whole, with there even being people who unironically think the early DBZ Saiyans are complete fodder compared to the likes of the Viltrumites, and that my video is complete garbage. Which is why in today's video I'm here to explain to you guys why even a Dragon Ball human like Krillin would be more than capable of taking on one of the strongest Viltrumites to ever live in Omni-Man, and why the fight wouldn't even be close. To understand why this is the case though, the first thing we need to go over is both characters' respective levels of strength, starting off with Nolan, whose scaling is rather straightforward, but also slightly complicated. The reason I say this is because during the events of Invincible issue 75, Nolan with the help of Mark and Thaddeus was notably able to destroy planet Viltrum. However, there's one main problem with this feat, which is the fact that Space Racer's blast that was shot alongside the trio verbatim destabilized the core of the planet, making the feat possible in the first place. Therefore, if we take the context of this feat into account and run the numbers for the actual amount of kinetic energy produced by the trio, then the result comes out to a more consistent small planet level rather than baseline or large planet level like a lot of other calcs will claim. However, now that we know the upper limits of one of Viltrum's elite soldiers, it's now time to talk about the strongest human in Dragon Ball, who is just as easy to scale as Omni-Man. This is because even as early as the Saiyan saga, Krillin is stated to have a power level of over 1700, making him stronger than the same early Saiyan saga Piccolo, who was casually able to vaporize the moon in seconds. A feat that can be calced at right around small planet level in terms of kinetic energy output, easily landing Krillin in the moon to small planet level range in terms of raw strength in just the first arc of DBZ. And if you thought Krillin peaked here, you'd be absolutely wrong, since upon arriving to Namek, the Earthling would have his latent potential unlocked by Guru, which shot his power level all the way up to 13,000. This is relevant because with this power level, Krillin should at least be on par with the likes of Saiyan Saga Vegeta, who by his own words was going to turn the Earth into space dust with his Gallic gun, which would easily slot the Prince and by extension Krillin in the planet level tier in terms of strength, with this even being supported by guide statements stating you would need at least a power level of 10,000 to destroy a planet, a mark that Krillin obviously exceeds. Add this on top of the fact that we've also seen Krillin injuring a star-level Frieza, as well as all of his feats in the Super anime, and Krillin could easily be argued to be anywhere from solar system to even fucking universal level at a low ball. That being said though, strength obviously isn't everything when it comes to a versus matchup, which is why the next thing we need to talk about is abilities, and we'll go ahead and continue with talking about Krillin. Now, when it comes to Krillin and his abilities, things aren't too complicated. Since like pretty much every character in Dragon Ball, Bro's whole toolkit revolves around his manipulation and use of ki, which is your standard vanilla anime energy system that grants Krillin enhanced physical traits like strength, speed, durability, and flight, alongside access to key attacks like the Kamehameha, as well as a signature Destructo Disc which can slice through virtually anything, including characters dozens of times stronger than Krillin himself. Krillin's use of ki isn't simply limited to offense though, as on top of his ki attacks, Bro can also use a technique known as the Solar Flare, which uses the light of the sun to blind opponents almost instantly, allowing for the user to either have a massive opening to attack or flee depending on the adversary and situation. Now that we've covered Krillin's abilities though, we can shift our focus to Omni-Man's, which are frankly quite limited in comparison, as his powers primarily boil down to enhanced physical stats, flight, and a borderline negligible healing factor that offers little utility in a fight to the death. Skipping past abilities though, the last and arguably most important thing we need to go over is speed, and we'll go ahead and keep with tradition by continuing with Nolan, whose speed is rather complicated to discuss in comparison to his strength and abilities. The reason this is the case is because when it comes to the speed of Nolan, people either think he's disgustingly fast or extremely slow based on the fact that he was quick enough to easily transverse light years in weeks while flying, while simultaneously being so slow that he was able to get tagged by characters like the Immortal and Red Rush, who are only around sound level in terms of speed. However, there's a simple explanation for this. Flight speed does not equal combat speed. Therefore, any feat performed by Omni-Man while flying basically has no relevance unless the fight takes place in the vacuum of space, which isn't very practical, thereby giving Nolan supersonic level combat speed at best while on Earth, with this even being supported by the fact that he couldn't simply blitz and murder the sound level Guardians of the Globe and actually had a moderately difficult fight against the group's strongest members. Moving past Omni-Man though, we can finally go back to talking about Krillin and his speed. But to understand just how fast he is, we first have to go all the way back to Dragon Ball Chapter 130, where we see a Kid Goku with only a power level of 180 outspeed Tien Solar Flare, which utilizes real light from the sun. With this feat being calced to require Goku to be moving at almost twice the speed of light to pull off, and again this is Goku during Chapter 130 of the manga, with only a power level of 180. While Krillin, on the other hand, during the Namek Saga has a power level of 13,000, which would make him over 72 times faster than Kid Goku, with this arguably being a low ball considering power level jumps are displayed to be exponential increases as opposed to linear ones. And that's without even mentioning Dragon Ball Super Krillin, who can fight suppressed god level beings capable of fighting at massively faster than light speeds, easily slotting the Earthling in the FTL to MFTL range in terms of raw combat speed. With both Krillin and Omni-Man scaled completely though, it's now time to get into the evaluation portion of the video, with the result of said evaluation being pretty obvious considering Nolan is massively below Krillin in terms of raw stats as early as the Namek Saga, and is pretty much in a different dimension of power compared to the Viltrumite Elite during the events of Dragon Ball Super. Which I'm pretty sure no one is surprised by considering Bro's best feat is arguably being 1/3 planet level, while Krillin is out here sparring Divine Saiyans who have been planet busting since the 90s, making it arguable whether Bro can even beat Krillin from early Dragon Ball. And if you ask me, this is pretty hilarious to say the least, especially when supposed reputable channels like Death Battle actually have people believing any Viltrumite stands the slightest chance against even the weakest of the Dragon Ball cast, when that's really not the case. But at the end of the day, these are all just my opinions on Dragon Ball vs. Invincible, which is why I would love to hear what you guys think down in the comments section below. Also, while you're down there, don't forget to leave a like on the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more content like this, as it would be greatly appreciated. With all that being said though guys, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and until next time,